So in this video, we're going to take a look at attributes and how to take care of those as it pertains to inside of a drawing. So far, we've seen attributes in our title block, but we never had to assign it to an actual item. So what we're going to do is going to use these tables, and we're going to create these I-beams with these attributes attached to them. Once we create these, we're going to insert them and make a drawing that looks like this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and switch on over to AutoCAD. The one thing I want you to notice on this one is that these back ones are different. And the other thing I want you to also notice is that these dimensions are pulling from the center of each one of these I-beams. The reason I say that is because when you're creating these, we're going to have to assign a base point to them. And I would highly recommend that you put it in the center. Okay, so let's go ahead and create these I-beams. I'll start with the line. And I want to make that line going vertical. Go down a distance of 11 point, and let me undo back, 11.94. Next, let's make a horizontal line. That distance is 8. Let's go ahead and move this just by using the grip. So I'll select the line, select the middle grip there, and put it on that end point. Let's go ahead and copy this. So select the middle grip, choose the word copy, and then just place it at the top end point. Let's go ahead and use the offset command next. Distance I'll use is 0.516. I'll offset this line going down that direction and this line going up. Next, I need to offset this to thickness. So I'll go back to offset. I'll use the calculator function, so apostrophe CAL, enter. When it asks me for the expression, I'll type in 0.294 divided by 2. Let's offset this line, one to this side and one to this side. I'll delete this line in the middle. Draw a line going straight down to this end point and one going down to this end point. Then I'll trim the rest of this. So trim, and let's go ahead and create our I-beam and trim all of the parts in between them. Okay, as a good practice, I would usually like to join all this together. So I'll highlight it all and use the join command. You can see that it was converted into one polyline. Next, I'll start creating the other I-beam. Just like I did with the other one, I'll start with a vertical line. Distance will be 12.34. Create a horizontal line, 6.52. I'll use grips again, so I'll select this line, select this grip, place it on this endpoint. Select this grip again, choose the word copy, and place it at the top endpoint. Okay, I'll escape 2 times to get out of the grips. Let's go to offset, 0.44. Offset this line down and this one going up. Let's offset the thickness. So offset, you can use the calculator function again if you want. In this case, I'll just type in 0.13. And I'll offset this line to both sides. Let's go ahead and delete this line and connect our endpoints with lines on the outside. Trim, and then we can trim off the lines on the outside and clean up on the inside. And that's strange, I think because I had my window zoomed in a little too close, it cut off my top endpoints. I'll go ahead and put them back. Then I'll come back to the trim command and cut off these lines. Okay, so starting with this attribute here, I'm going to create an attribute, and instead of going to the Insert tab, the icon for it is right here. So choose Define Attribute. Should get a dialog box appear. I'm going to turn off the lock position since I do want this to have freedom to move. And I do want this to be verified. The tag will say Steel. And I'll just turn the caps lock on for this. Underneath the prompt, I'll just type in Enter Steel. And I usually put a colon behind it. You can give it a default. In this case, it's going to be W12 by 40. Now, since this is one of those things that will not change, I can make this one constant as well. But according to the table, I don't need to make it constant. So I'll just leave it as verify. We do want to see this one, so we're not going to make it invisible. I like to control my text by the middle center. And then the text height. We can adjust this on our drawing, and you're going to see that because we don't know the true value of it right now. So let's go ahead and just leave it at 0.2. Select OK. The word Steel follows you around. Just going to select in this location. I'll go back and define my next attribute. In this one, it's going to be invisible. I don't need to verify this one since I know it's going to be invisible, but you can leave that option checked. Next, we're going to ask for the manufacturer. I'll just simply type MFG. Enter MFG with a colon behind it. Let's go ahead and give it the value, and this one is Ryerson. We did make it invisible. We got it set to verify. I'll choose middle center. Standard is the text style that I want it to. And instead of giving it a position, I'm just going to tell it to align it below the last one. Once I select OK, you're going to see it pop automatically in line underneath it. Let's go to our next one. This one is also invisible. Tell it that we want a quote. Enter quote. And then the value of that is going to be quote. Oh, I'm sorry, instead of quote, change this tag to price. And we're going to tell it to enter price. I'm going to align this one also with the last one. And then let's select OK. Continuing, so I'll enter or create another attribute. Now this one is invisible. It's also constant. You'll see that when I select a constant, there's no need to verify it. And it doesn't have a preset value. So I'll keep going with this one. I'll give it a tag. This is going to be weight. You'll see that I don't have to enter a weight value for this one since it's already constant, so I will not get an option to be asked. And this one is be 40 pounds per foot. I'll align this one with the last one. Select OK. Create the next attribute. I'll take off the constant. Length. Enter length. Then I'll give it a value, 10 feet. (10 feet 0 inches). align with the last one. And then finally, my last one, edit attribute, create attribute. This one is called code. I'm going to type in enter code, and then we'll type in the code. In this case is 03116WF. Then let's make sure we align it with the other one. Have all our attributes set for this one. Let's copy these over to this location. Now I have my ortho on, and I can kind of move this around a little bit. That looks good enough for this one. Now you know all the values of this one is almost the same, so we're just going to change the two that's different. In this case, weight is going to be one of them. I simply double clicked on it. It brought up in the attribute values. This one is set to 30. And then we'll change the code. And for this one, the code is going to be 03125WF. Okay, so now I have my attributes and my objects drawing. Let's go ahead and make them into a block. When you're creating a block, you have two options. You can do a create block, which saves it to this drawing, or you can use a write block, which is going to create a separate drawing altogether. In our case, we're just going to use the regular create block. Name of this block will be W12 by 40. And up here in the name, you can have spaces. Unlike in the attributes, the tag cannot have any spaces, but in this case I can. Now this is that insertion point that I was telling you about before. So what do I want to control this object from? I'll choose pick base point. I like to shift and right click and choose mid between 2 points. Choose this endpoint and this endpoint. Select objects. Make sure you highlight all of these with the attributes. Once you're done selecting, hit the enter button. You should get an icon that appears. And I want to convert this to a block right now. In the behavior of it, we want to allow it to explode, scale uniformly, and we're not at the annotative options yet. Go ahead and select OK. And we did draw this in inches. That's what the settings is telling us for right now. And once I select that, you should see your dialog box appear. That's asking you to verify all of these. And you do have all the other ones that are invisible did hide away. Select OK. And repeat the step for this one. So I'll go to create block. Give it a name, which is W12 by 30. Let's go ahead and pick our base point. Do a shift and right click and choose mid between 2 points. Choose this endpoint and this endpoint. I want it to convert to a block. It's going to scale and blow up uniformly, or I can allow it to be exploded. It's in inches. Go ahead and select OK. And it looks like I did forget to select objects, and this is what AutoCAD is reminding me of. So I'll choose select objects. Let's go ahead and put a window around this and hit enter. And now I have everything converted. I get a little icon here next to it just to show me what I'm going to create. And then hit OK. Once again, it's verifying all of that stuff for me since I had to verify box checked. Okay, so on to the second part of the Excel spread, of the PDF. So as you can see, we've done all of this and we created our shapes. Now it's time to create this drawing. So what we're going to do is we need to switch over our units. So as you can see that all of these units are in the architectural font. So back here we're going to switch over to architectural. Remember that if you don't have this icon or this option here, you select Customize and make sure that you find the word Units and put a check next to it. So I'll change this to Architectural. Go back to the Home tab and create my rectangle. Click here as a starting point. And this is 24 feet. Remember, you have to put the foot mark, comma, 12 feet. I have my drawing where I want it to be. So now let's go ahead and put these I-beams on the inside of this. So you'll notice that when I select this, I get the grip to appear right in the insertion point that we set up for our block. This is the W12 by 40. Select this grip. I can choose Shift and right click and use the From option. Select this endpoint. Type in the @ symbol. 1 foot 4, comma, 1 foot. Okay, so for my next thing, what I'm going to do is that I'll go ahead and use a rectangular array for to create the next 4 of these. Well, I'm kind of thinking to myself, do I want to set these up now, or should I set them up when I have all the attributes to the right size? And I think I'm going to hold off on that, and I'm just going to put in my title block next. So let's type in Classic Insert. We're going to browse to our title blocks. I'll use a B size. Okay, make sure none of this is checked and select OK. You can see that this is incredibly small compared to what I need it to be. Okay, this drawing was created with an architectural. So what I'm going to do is I'll be using this box to adjust my title block to whatever scale factor. And these are the corresponding scales that go with each one of them. Select your title block. Do a right click and select Properties. Now I'm looking to change the scale X, scale Y, and scale Z. So let's go ahead and adjust this to 8 and see how big our title block gets. You can see that 8 is still too small. Let's try doubling that number and see what 16 looks like. Looks like we're almost there, so our next guess would either be 24 or 32. We'll take a look at 24 to see if that gives us enough room, and in this case it does. So while this is set and open, I'll use the corresponding scale to go with it. In this case, the scale will be 1/2 inches equals 1 foot dash 0 inches. For the project name, let's go ahead and give it I-beam as the name. And for your name, go ahead and enter your name in this box. Okay, so our title block tells us what our scale factor is, and in this case it's 24. I'm going to move my text and my I-beams in my drawing here. Just kind of put it somewhere in the middle of my drawing, or my title block. Okay, the first thing I like to adjust is my line type scale. So that's LTS. 24 is going to be the value. And now you can see your line types will appear. In this drawing, we don't have any center lines or center marks, so I don't have to worry about that one at this time. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the text on this. I'll use the Edit command, and I'm just typing in ED and select the text here. you'll get a dialog box that will appear. The one that we're concerned with is going to be the one that says steel. So select it. Go to your text options. This is where you're going to adjust your height. In this case, let's say we want our text height to be 1/4 of an inch. Now this is where we're going to have to manually do some multiplication. Since I'm physically not in any drawing or in any command, I can't use the calculator function. So what I have to do is I pulled up my calculator and I'll do the multiplication. So if I want that text height to be 0.25 tall, I have to multiply that number times the scale factor. This value is the value of my text height. So let's go ahead and put in 6. You can see my text height will adjust, and I'll select OK. Now you can see on this drawing that this is going to be a little bit too big for it, so let's go ahead and make the text height 0.125. So go ahead and select it and use the edit command. Make sure that you have steel highlighted, text options, and make this value 3. Next, I need to move this text, so select your text, select this grip, and then you can position it where you want it. Sometimes these O-snaps will snap it to other locations. You can either turn that off or just readjust it until you get in the right place. Now, I'll go ahead and use the rectangular array since now I have my text positioned where I want it. And I think the text is more or less at the top. Let's go ahead and move that again. Okay, so let's go ahead and use the rectangular array. I'll select my object. Now I have to tell it the values that I want. In this case, we have 2 columns and 2 rows. The distance in between each of the columns is going to be 10 feet, 8 inches, and between each row it's going to be 10 feet. In this case, I want to make sure that I have this associativity turned off, and then I can close the array. For this one, let's go ahead and select our text here at the bottom. So I'm just going to use the edit attribute command, or ED for edit text in this case. I want to make sure that I have steel selected. Let's go to the options of the text. Let's go ahead and make this 3 and OK. I'll escape out of that command, and then let's go ahead and select. Then we can put our text above it. Now you can see on this one that the text is actually below it, so you can go ahead and adjust that by selecting, select the grip, and move it to where you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this one in position. I'll use the construction line method to locate this one, or you can do a lot of the math and figure it out. But I'll use construction line, offset. And now I need to give it a distance to offset. Let's type in 1'4". This is one of those things that'll help me verify if this was located in the right place. So I selected that line and I click to the right of it. Escape. Let's go back to that command. So construction line, offset, 10 feet 8. Go ahead and select this construction line, go to the right of it, and select this one, and go to the right of it. We know that this one is in line with this one. So I'll go back to construction line, horizontal, and now I need to choose the insert of this one, or this midpoint will actually work. So go ahead and select the midpoint along this I-beam. Now I have the position of where I can put this one at or place it. Let's go ahead and select it. I'll select this grip and place it at this intersection. Let's go ahead and delete all of our lines. So all of these construction lines, we don't need them anymore. Let's copy, select your text, pick a base point which is here, and remember we're moving it at a value so the base point doesn't matter. Turn ortho on, and I'll go up a distance of 10 feet. I'll move my text down. Okay, so next let's go ahead and adjust our dimension style. I'll choose the Annotate tab. Make sure that I tell my dimensions to be dimensions. And I'll adjust the style. You can type in D, enter. In this case, I'm just going to select this arrow. Let's go ahead and modify. Starting with the first point here. All of this looks okay. We will have a baseline on this one. I think that should be enough distance. Let's get a little bit more creative, and we're going to change our arrowheads. So in the drop down, I'm going to select the architectural ticks. So both of those are set now to architectural ticks. Let's go ahead and set our center marks to none. Text height 0.125. Underneath the fit, remember we have to adjust this to the same height as our title block. So there's our scale factor. Then we come to the primary units. Let's go ahead and change them to architectural. And you can see that we also have this text aligned with our whichever direction that our dimensions is going. If I come back to the text icon, I'm going to tell it to align it with the dimension. And now you can see my text in this preview box is aligned now with whichever the way the text, or whichever the way the dimension line is going. Go back to primary units. I have no prefixes or suffixes. And do I want to suppress the feet in inches on this if I have any leading one? In this case, I want the 0 to appear. So in the inches, I'm going to uncheck this box because I actually want to see those values. Let's go ahead and choose OK, then close. Let's choose a linear dimension. I'm going to go from this endpoint. Now you can select the midpoint of this one. It's a really good practice. If I shift and right click and I choose the insert point, that is on my I-beam. I'll go ahead and place that dimension. Choose continue. Then I'll go to the insert point of this one. Escape. You can see I need to relocate this text on this side, so select it, and then select the grip that has the words on it, and move it to the other side. Go back to linear, or in this case I can actually use baseline. So choose baseline. Now it's looking for that extension, or the last point that I clicked on. I'm going to choose select. I'll select this line, and I'll place it at that endpoint. Escape. Let's do the bottom ones. So I'll go to linear, select this endpoint to this midpoint, or you can go back to the insertion point, place this dimension, choose continue, and I'll just keep going to the midpoints. Escape, choose baseline, choose the select option, choose this extension line, and I'll choose this endpoint. Escape. Okay, so that's everything that you need to do to create this drawing. I hope you enjoyed watching this one, and I'll see you on the next one.